Hey guys, what's going on today? BOJoeKO here, and welcome back to another episode of Flyers Talk. I haven't sat down and actually recorded our Flyers Talk podcast in a while for you guys, so I decided to do so today and kind of made it a little bit of a Flyers season preview. What I'm going to be talking about for you guys today. So obviously it's going to be a long episode. It's a podcast kind of type video, so nothing's going to be on the screen. Just listen and enjoy as I talk to you guys about the Philadelphia Flyers and what this year is definitely going to bring to the team. So, I think we'll go through everything so far since I haven't had a Flyers talk since the Flyers made a trade with Scott Hartnell for RJ Umberger. So we know we don't have to really talk about that all that much. So I guess we'll start at the draft and kind of move our way forward until we get to like the line predictions and the season outlooks of all the types of players and all that kind of stuff that's going to lead up to it. So, first of all, I guess we will start with the draft a while ago. Flyers had the number 13, no, 17. They had the 17th overall pick in this year's draft, and they picked up. I predicted it well too. I've had my little draft pool kind of planned out, and I actually predicted it right. I predicted that the Flyers were going to take Travis Sanheim, 17th overall, from the Calgary Hitmen, which they definitely did. I think it was a solid pickup. Getting more defense is definitely the plan for the Flyers because of all the old slow defensemen on our core right now. It's very good to get so many young defensemen stockpiled up in the minors and in the system so that once all the old guys are gone, you can just start inserting the young guys into the lineup and making our defense look a lot better. So, first off, I guess we'll start with the free agency moves that the Flyers made. Not really many of them that they have made because of the many cap restrictions that the Flyers were dealing with. Um, Obviously, one of the trades that they made, trading away Hartnell to the Columbus Blue Jackets because of Hartnell's contract now, even though RJ Umberger and Scott Hartnell had relatively the exact same amount of money and contract-wise, Umberger's ends a year earlier. So, with that having done, you can get a guy like Umberger out of here a year early instead of having Hartnell attached for another year, and just frees up some cap because by the time Umberger's contract is done, you have guys contracts who are coming up like Wayne Simmons and a Jacob Voracek and maybe like a Sean Couturier and a Braden Shen, all those kind of players that you wanna keep your core on your team, want to keep those guys there rather than just spending that high amounts of money on like a mid-range 30-year-old with who might not be producing all that much. So and still, it's a good move. And so far, I'm liking the moves that Ron Hextall has been making as our GM. Like I said, it's like a breath of fresh air now for Flyers fans. Now that we know that Paul Holmgren is not dealing with the GM day-to-day routine anymore. Now we have a guy who was obviously one of the best goaltenders. I would say behind Bernie Perron, the second probably best goaltender that the Flyers have ever had in franchise history, taking over the team now. Wants to develop prospects, which is like it's like something that Flyers fans have never really heard of. Like what we want to develop prospects rather than just I don't know getting them 1 or 2 years and then trading them right away. I mean it's something new. It's something that the Flyers haven't seen or haven't done in forever. I mean just look at that for example. Who's the last prospect that the Flyers had and have developed? Well, he's the captain of your freaking team right now, Claude Giroux. Picked him, I think, 22nd overall, and there he is. He's on the team, become the captain of the team. So first off, I guess we'll start with the free agency moves that the Flyers have made so far this season. They with their restricted amount of cap. I mean, they picked up some defensemen. I mean, they got Nick Schultz. They picked up Michael Del Zotto. I'll get to that later when we talk about the defensive situation. They picked up Rob Zepp, who is apparently a pretty. I don't know. I haven't heard much from him. He's a decent German goaltender, I've heard. Some people give him praise. Some people have not given him praise. I think he's relatively young. He's around like 20 something is 20 something is year old. They picked up Blair Jones and then some more just depth forwards. I know they picked up somebody else in today that they picked up. I think it was who did they pick up today? I'm about to go check it on Twitter right now. Who did they grab today? Ryan White, that's who it was. Ryan White center. So they picked up Ryan White today on the 1 year 2-way contract, which is good. I'm liking these 1 year deals that Hextall is signing. It's good. It's good. So those are like pretty much all the moves that they made in the offseason. And Pierre Edouard Bellemare, I forgot about him. They picked him up from the French league, and hopefully he might be able to crack the roster this year, seeing as Adam Hall is not on the team anymore. Neither is Steve Downey. Getting rid of some of those guys on the team just didn't fit out all too well. Get rid of some of the chippier players. I am kind of sad about Hall because Hall still was a pretty solid fourth line center to have, but now that the fact that they couldn't move Vincent Lecavalier away, no team wanted to pick him up, so the Flyers are still kind of stuck with him. Assumes the role of fourth line center for right now, but definitely could have the capability to move up into the lineup if some of the guys are not producing all too well. So, with that being said, like I said, nothing they really could have done free agency wise because of so much restricted room in the cap. But what they did right now, just mini moves being made right now, and I think they will. You won't see. I don't think any of them will be like a immediate effect player other than maybe Umberger because he will be put into the lineup somewhere. Other than that, it's just going to be interesting to see where some of the people are getting played and put at. So let's look at the roster right now. That's they kind of have put into position right now. So we'll start in the back end. We'll start with Ray Emery and Steve Mason. So we'll start with Steve Mason first. So Steve Mason definitely had one hell of a good year last year. Is definitely his best year of his NHL career since he was Rookie of the Year in '08 and '09. He had a really strong start. I will say that. When Steve Mason started out the year, he had a really, really good start. I think he put up a GAA or a save percentage around like 9.93, which was really, really good. He started to lose a little bit of consistency near the end of the season, where he struggled a bit to keep the puck out of the net. Granted, I still think it was the wear and tear of the defense that was taking its toll. Like the older guys, like Timonen and Grossman and Streit, were all starting to kind of get a little bit worn out as the season went on. But still, I still think Steve Mason has the capability to put up another really good season. He kind of has to, coming off a really good strong start like that, and knowing the fact that he is the number one goaltender once again this year, I think that'll only give him some more confidence to perform. Emery, still with the backup. You might see Zepp go into a backup role. Like I said, the Flyers tried out Cal Heater the last game of the season, and he got lit up against the Carolina Hurricanes, I believe, for 7 freaking goals, which was not really too great. I mean, there's nothing really special in our goaltending system other than Anthony Stolarz, who could possibly be a backup when Ray Emery's contract is done. Because even though Stolarz is coming off of I believe that injury to his leg where he got cut with his skate, I believe he's going to be playing with the London Knights one more year. So I think that he'll continue to get better playing with London because I know London has a really good team in front of him. So I think he'll continue to get better, and you might see him as a backup goaltender, maybe if not next year, the following year. So Steve Mason definitely has his work cut out for him. He definitely needs to um, put up what the kind of numbers that he had in the beginning of the season, and it's kind of gonna have to be relying on him because we know the defense of this team is not going to be doing Mason any favors. He's going to be facing a lot, not if not a lot of shots, he's going to be facing more than enough shots in every one of these games. So Steve Mason is definitely going to have to bail the Flyers out some situations this year because he's not going to get much help from the defense. So with that being said, let's go to the defense first. And so obviously the goaltending this year, Steve Mason, Ray Emery. Could see Rob Zepp in a backup role, and hopefully Mason can stay healthy throughout the year. And like I said, the playoffs last year, I'm not saying that Steve Mason being out for the first 3 games of those series against the Rangers would have helped us win the series, but I think it might have had a different. I think the games might have had a different score. Now, I'm not saying that like I said, not saying the Flyers could have won because Ray Emery for the 3 games that he did play, he played pretty solid. Especially in the one game that they did win, they played pretty solid. I will give them that, but um, I still think that the games might have had a different outlook, and I still, Flyers fans will be hating Jason Megna for the rest of for next season. They'll be definitely gunning for him. But yeah, goaltending Steve Mason and then Ray Emery. Rob Zepp could see time in there. I don't think they'll give Cal Heater any time this year. So defensemen. Now let's move on to the situation with Kimmo Timonen. As many of you guys probably have heard in the news, Kimmo Timonen was hospitalized in, I believe, Finland for blood clots in his leg, having a little bit of difficulty breathing as well. This is the exact same injury that Timonen faced in 2008 as well. So he's been dealing with it for a while now. I mean, he's what, 39, 40 years old. Timonen is 41ish. I think he's like 39 or 40. I don't know. He with that injury done, I don't even know if he's going to play. I don't know if he's going to play at all this year. Something like that is an injury like that is a very serious thing. And if you're having blood clots in your leg and it's something that you rely on, even though Timonen's not the fastest skater out there, you need to rely on something like that and trying to put pressure on that and trying to come back from a kind of serious injury like that. It's very tough. So I really hope Timonen gets better. I would love to see him out there again, but then again, I don't want to see people like himself push to be out there again because I'd rather him be done than him try to come back and hurt himself even worse. So if that is the end of Kimmo Timonen's career, honestly, all the Flyers fans would be happy and most grateful for what he has shown us for the, I don't even know how many years that he's been here with Philadelphia, maybe like the 11 years that he's been in the Flyers organization. Nothing. I give Timonen all the thanks in the world for everything that he's shown for this Flyers defense, heart and soul of it, no doubt. But I really just hope that some miracle may happen, and hope he can come back. So with that injury to Timonen being done, there was one free agent defenseman that was still available in free agency that nobody really picked up yet. Nobody really wanted to give a chance to, and he kind of needed to make a decision. So Hextall went out, signed Michael Del Zotto to a 1-year deal, which was good because if Homeroom was in charge of the GM roles and routines this year, he probably would have gave Del Zotto like a 3-year, $3 million contract or something ridiculous like that. So he's keeping him safe. Del Zotto's still young. He's only 24, I believe. He's a young defenseman. He gets 1 year. I'm glad Hextall gave him the 1 year because he has the 1 year to prove himself. If he can find a way to revamp his game out and he shows it, then he could possibly get a nice little extension. Then if Kimmo Timonen is done, then he could get inserted right into our defensive core. That kind of just eliminates the idea of a rookie sliding into the lineup, but it still gives the young guys more opportunity to grow in the mire. So I asked on Twitter a lot of people what they thought, Nashville Predators fans and New York Rangers fans, what they have seen out of Del Zotto. And you know what? His defensive game isn't the strongest. Del Zotto, like I said, they said he can have a really good, nice little streak of games where he puts up a lot of points. I've heard he's very good on the power play. He's a much more offensively minded defenseman than defensively minded, which is good because it's the same thing with Timonen. Timonen's more offensively minded than defensively minded. He's young, which means he probably can skate pretty well. Can get back on the play, which is something that we need here, especially with the Flyers defense being so slow. You need a young guy who, that's one thing that Del Zotto does have over Timonen. He is quicker. He can get back on the play. And I honestly think it was a good signing by Hextall to take the risk with Del Zotto, because like I said, it's 1 year. He can prove himself and he does a good job, then he could actually see himself being rewarded for it. So, it looks like Andrew McDonald is now going to be moved with the signing of Delzato and Team being out. It looks like they're going to move Andrew McDonald up to the first pair to play with Braden Coburn, which is honestly something I definitely saw coming. They're going to group Delzato with Shen. Um, I just gotta pray to the hockey gods that one of them knows what the hell they're doing out there on the ice. No beef towards Luke Shen, but they're kind of two of the most criticized defensemen, I guess, in the league for the past couple of years. Going to be playing on the same line with each other, so that could be interesting. And then Nicholas Grossman and Mark Streit will be rounding out the top six. So it's a very old core. You do have your share of young guys in there. I mean, Luke Shen's still fairly young. Delzato will be pretty young. Streit and Grossman are getting up there in age. Coburn is about probably like in his late 20s, I would think. So he's getting up there in age too. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see. I don't think like I said, we've been stuck with the same kind of defensive core for the past couple of years, and it's nothing really that surprises me. Whatever. So you could see guys like maybe Grossman and Mark Streit maybe taking. I can't see them playing all. Regardless of an injury, I can't see them playing all 82 games this year. So you could see a guy like Nick Schultz, who we picked up as a depth defenseman, or you could maybe even see one of the young guys filling in as well for Grossman or Mark Streit, or if Tiemann does come back and play, and Delzato as well. You could see maybe one of the young guys excuse me, take up a game or two in the defensive core. And like I said, you could rely on the young guys. I mean, throwing a young guy in there for one game or two shouldn't be bad, because you got three really good players, defensive prospects that can come up in any time. In order of, I think, who's more NHL ready, I would go with Robert Hagg first. Then I would go with Shane Gostisbehere, and then Sam Morin. Morin's more of a defensive defenseman, especially since if Grossman goes out, I could see them throwing Morin in there. Then you could also have more defensive prospects like Oliver Lortzen. He played couple games 2 years ago for the Flyers, and he actually did show some pretty good abilities out there on defense. He's a big guy. He's a very, very big player, so he could fill in a game or two there. But then if I know Hextall, and I would want to play the rookies first, get Gostisbehere, Morin, and Hagg in there for a game or two and see what they can do. So obviously that's the biggest question for the Flyers. One of the biggest questions for the Flyers this year is, can their defense hold up? Can they relieve pressure from Steve Mason as much as they possibly can? And as long as the offense can do their part, defense just has to step up their game this year and hopefully relieve a lot of that stress. Now we'll move up to the forward core. So we'll start down the center first, on the first line. We'll start with the two guys who we know are going to be on the first line coming this year. That'd be Claude Giroux and Jakub Voracek. Now, Voracek really didn't have... we'll start with Jake first. Jake didn't have the greatest year that he had. The year before, he had one hell of a year, especially in the playoffs, too. Well, no, it wasn't last year. 2 years ago, yeah. Not the lockout season. Well, he actually did have a pretty good lockout season. Voracek had a really, really good lockout season. I think he had... what did he have? Did he have 30 goals? He had high 20 goals, I think. I'm pretty sure that Voracek had a high 20-goal season. I don't know. I'm going to check his stats out right now. Let's see. That would be 2012, 2013, right? Yeah, he had 46 points in 48 games, so he was almost a point-a-game player that year with 22 goals, 24 assists. So he had a good year that year. He also had a not bad year last year, 23 goals, 39 assists for 62 points in 82 games, which is just still pretty good. I honestly think Jake can do a hell of a lot better. He seemed to be more of an assist guy than a goal-scoring guy. But yes, Voracek's still been pretty solid for all the years that he's been here. Giroux is going to be, hopefully he doesn't have that stinking illness that haunted him last year, not scoring a goal a month until the Edmonton Oilers game where he scored his first goal of the year. I mean, and then honestly, once he scored that first goal, though, you can't deny that Giroux was one of the hottest players in the NHL. He just tore it up for the rest of the year, became a Hart Trophy finalist with Getzlaf and Sidney Crosby. Finished the year with, I believe, 86 points in 82 games. Yeah, he did 28 goals scored, almost 60 assists as well, 28 and 58. Giroux, obviously, He can get it done. If he didn't have that first month of that really bad first month of the season, um, he probably would have been contending with Crosby and Getzlaf for that Hart Trophy. Now, with those two being the top line mate, the top two guys, now that they got rid of Scott Hartnell for R.J. Umberger is not going to go on the top left wing position, no doubt. Flyers need to figure out who is going to play the left wing spot with Giroux and Voracek. Now, whether that be a guy like Braden Shen or Wayne Simmons, or could be Matt Reed, or maybe even a young guy, who knows? That spot is definitely going to be open. I don't know who they would put up there for right now. You've had guys like Braden Shen play with Jerome Voracek before, as well as Michael Raffl play with them as well. So, there is some guys on the team that Jerome Voracek do have some chemistry with, but I think that's going to be determined, and it's going to be an all-out. A lot of players are going to be competing with each other for that top left wing position. In my opinion, who they should put up there is Braden Shen. And now, because Braden Shen definitely, he had one hell of a year last year. I think Braden Shen had his best year that he has had in a while. I mean, he put up, what did he put up? He had 41 points in 82 games last year, 20 and 20 season for him. Had 20 goals scored. He has the potential to be a 25-30 goal scorer. He really does. He's a much more defensively minded player. I think Shen is a much better player on the wing than he is in the center. Uh, I don't think his faceoffs are the greatest. That's why I really think Shen is a much better player in the wing. And if you put a two-way forward playmaker sniper combination on that first line, I mean, it's got good chemistry in NHL 14/15. But seriously, it's really good. You can have Braden Shen be a guy who plays back on defense. Giroux and Voracek can just do the work on the first line, and Shen has the possibility to put the puck in the net as well. All the years that he's been working with all the years that he's been working with Wayne Simmons on that second line, whether they have that chemistry in LA or whatever, um, he's been learning from him. I've seen Shen get to the front of the net, try to get those trashy rebound goals, and I think he can get it done. I really do. He give him the shot. I think he might be the player that goes onto the first line wing spot, and I think I could see him there. But if we look at the second line right now, if Shen is going to go to the first line, you could have Wayne Simmons on the right. I don't think Sean Couturier would move up to the second line unless they move Matt Reed up with him, because Couturier, there's a lot of, that's the one problem with the Philadelphia Flyers. They have a lot of two players that work really well with each other, but then they also need that third guy to work in there as well. So the only reason I could see maybe Sean Couturier moving up to the second line center position is if Matt Reed moves with him. And honestly, I'm perfectly fine with a Sean Couturier, Matt Reed, Wayne Simmons second line. Now you can also put a guy in there like Jason Atkinson, who proved himself. The final, he's played the last game of the season the past 2 years, and he had two pretty good games. And then when Steve Downey got hurt in the playoffs, and he filled in. I mean, he had that one bad game, number one, taking that stupid penalty, but then he kind of came right back the next game and scored I think the eventual game-winning goal for the Flyers in that game. So he has it done. I think they definitely should give him a shot this year. He's a nice little sniper that they can add on to this team. He's quick. He knows how to shoot the puck. He's a nice little player there, so you can maybe put him on the second line. You can move Matt Reed up. You can put Atkinson down to the third line. But the center position is something weird there. Don't forget, too, Michael Raffl is one of those players like Braden Shen who could play the center or could play the wing. So you could maybe put Michael Raffl into that center position on the third line. And Umberger is also that as well. Umberger can play a wing. Umberger can play center as well. They have a lot of players on this team, Tier 2, that can play multiple positions. So first line right now, I have Claude Giroux, Jacob Voracek, and Braden Shen. Second line, I would have Sean Couturier, Matt Reed, and Wayne Simmons. Third line, I would put R.J. Umberger, Michael Raffl, and Jason Atkinson right there. So Umberger, like I said, I don't think he's going to be the person that put up Scott Hartnell-like points, because R.J. Umberger and Scott Hartnell are two completely different players. Excuse me. Hartnell, I mean, his defense for the past couple of years and his offensive production have been going slightly down. And Columbus was a team. Oh my God, I need a drink. Ah, my God, that's better. And like I said, Umberger is, I would say he's a bit more defensive. I would think he's a little bit faster skater than Scott Hartnell. Like I said, Hartnell's defensive production and offensive production have gone down within the past couple of years. Umberger could be a nice, solid replacement for Steve Downey on that third line because he's not going to be a guy that takes penalties. He's much more defensively minded, and you know what? He does have that offensive side to him. He's a much quicker skater than I would think than Scott Hartnell, who could put the puck in every now and then. And if you put a nice player like Sean Couturier and a sniper next to him in Jason Atkinson or Michael Raffel, I could think he could flourish very well down there on the third line. And then we get to the fourth line, which is going to be an interesting lineup here. You know, because we couldn't move him, you know Vinny LeCavalier will definitely be the fourth line center. Probably the most expensive fourth line center in the NHL will be down there. You know you're going to have your kind of a gritty player in Zach Ronaldo. Then you have one open spot there that could be taken by three guys depending upon the team that the Philadelphia Flyers are playing. You could give that new guy who they just signed, PE, I'll call him PE, Pierre-Edouard Bellemare from the French League, the 29-year-old. So he could make, if he shows up in camp, you could put him there. You have Jay Rosehill still in the lineup, who probably would only be put in there if the team that the Flyers are playing is a much more grittier team, like a Boston Bruins type team, like a Pittsburgh Penguins type team, like a New York Rangers type team, that kind of thing, where you need kind of just somebody to throw the body around a little bit. Then you could see Jay Rosehill getting in there for a game or two, or you could get some guy in the minors named, well, not really in the minors. You could call up one of your kind of guys waiting in the wing who has proved himself in previous seasons. You could throw in Scott Lawton, who played with them in the 2012-2013 season for 5 games. Didn't had a plus minus of 0, played 5 games, took 10 shots on net. Honestly, I think Lawton is one of those guys who is ready, could fill out a fourth line role this year. I could possibly see him getting into a game or two and really just making an impact player. People have been talking very highly of Scott Lawton in the past couple of years, and I think he is a really good player. He was the captain, I believe, of the Canada's junior team. He's been the captain, I think, of his Canadian Hockey League team, whoever he is part of. The OHL team, who is he part of? He's part of the Who's he with? He's with the Oshawa Generals. That's right. He's with the Oshawa Generals. I think he'll be playing for the Phantoms this year. So um, I could see Lawton filling out the roster as well. So that's kind of what the roster I think is going to look like. Essentially, you could see a lot of players being moved up and down throughout the lineup. Um, it's just going to be interesting to see. It's all going to be, the lineup could change night in and night out depending on the team that the Flyers are going to be playing. Now, I watched the 30 and 30 that was posted on NHL.com of the Flyers, and I believe one of the guys picked the Flyers to go back into the playoffs, and one of them picked them not to go into the playoffs. Now, I could see the Flyers be making it into maybe like a wild card spot, or picking up that third seed in the Metro once again. Because you're going to have some tough teams once again this year. You're going to have the teams like the New York Rangers, who are hungry, who had a very good season last year, who are going to try to want to make it back into the playoffs. You have the Pittsburgh Penguins, who seem to have gotten a little bit better than last year. You have a new team like the Columbus Blue Jackets, who are eager to make it into the playoffs. You have teams like maybe the Islanders, who could surprise this year, especially with all their free agency pickups. They got a really good goaltender now. They got a lot more deeper in their depth. You have the Washington Capitals, who picked up 2 Pittsburgh defensemen who could surprise a bunch of people this year. You have a lot of guys in that metropolitan division this year that could surprise people, that they made more moves than the Flyers have made. So the Flyers are going to stick with their kind of core group that they have had for the past couple of years. And then you have a team like Jersey and Carolina. I don't see a team like the Carolina Hurricanes making the playoffs, just because of the struggles that they've had on lacking in a good bit of depth as well as lacking some players on defense. You could see the Devils making into a push there as well. I mean, they're finally going to have Schneider as their goaltender now, and they got a lot better players as well on their team. So you could see a team like maybe the New Jersey Devils maybe pushing for a playoff spot as well. Like I said, every team in the Metropolitan Division has made moves, really big moves, in order to improve the quality of their team, other than the Flyers. So the Flyers are one of the only teams that didn't make any moves, that are going to keep their core group together and see if they can, hopefully the young guys can lead them to a playoff series once again. I think they can do it as long as the goaltending remains pretty solid, as long as Steve Mason can have have a complete full year from start to finish. The backup, whoever is in there, does a good job. And for the defense, if they can just take pressure off of him, hopefully guys like Delzato and the young guys that are on the defensive core can hold it down. And for the young forwards too, they're gonna have a lot of new guys and a lot of young forwards filling out this team once again, and they're definitely gonna have to step it up. And Giroux is going to have to get his game rolling, day one, game one, and try to continue that throughout the whole entire year without waiting a month until finally starting to really turn his game up and start to produce. So that's kind of my season preview for the Philadelphia Flyers. I see them as maybe making it into a wild card spot this year, or maybe the third seed in the Metropolitan Division. And honestly, I would not be surprised if I don't see the Flyers make the playoffs this year. I really wouldn't. If they don't make the playoffs, there could be some serious changes being made to, like, for their defensive core, trading away kind of all the old defensemen and getting the new guys in here right then and there. I don't see them making changes to their forward group because their forward group is really young, and I don't think they need to get younger. Um, but honestly, if the Flyers don't make the playoffs, expect to see some very huge moves and decisions being made, especially with that defensive core. So thanks guys for watching. If you have any suggestion, or if you guys like this episode of the Flyers Talk, make sure to leave it in the comments down below. And what do you Flyers fans think, as well as all the other guys out there who aren't Flyers fans? I would like to hear your opinions as well, and not the bias like Pittsburgh fans will say, like, oh, the Flyers suck, Pittsburgh's better. Nah, I would rather you try to be unbiased as you possibly can. Find it in your heart to be unbiased, and let me know personally what you think with the Flyers, and let me know what you think, as well as the Flyers fans as well. So thanks guys for listening to another episode of Flyers Talk. I want to do these a little bit more often. It's just a nice kind of relaxing thing for me to do. Just sit back and just talk to you guys about that stuff. So I want to try to bring these a little bit more back more often, especially when the season comes out. I want to do Flyers Talks at least once a week. I would think after the entire week of games being played, I would try to maybe put these out every Sunday night / Monday morning for you guys. I think that'd be pretty cool if I could do that when the season starts to come around. And yeah, I think that'd be pretty cool. It's a nice little just talk around podcast like series, so you guys can. Sunday would be good, releasing them on Sunday night, because if you don't listen to it on Sunday, you can listen to it as a kind of podcast Monday morning thing to get through your Monday morning day, especially when school time comes for my younger viewers out there. So I think that'd be pretty cool, and I'll try to do that. If you guys if you guys definitely would want to have that more often, let me know in the comment section down below. So thanks for listening, guys, to another episode of Flyers Talk. Always make sure to use the hashtag Flyers Talk on Twitter as well. And it's definitely going to be an interesting year for the Flyers, especially when the decisions in the lineups come after preseason and training camps are over. I'm very excited to see what this Flyers team is going to do this year. So thanks for listening, guys, and I'll see you next time for another episode of Flyers Talk.